Uh, what inspired you to start Kotmo?
So I started Kotmo 9 years ago now. I moved to Montreal from France 11 years ago. And when I arrived in Montreal, I had no um, professional network. And my mom, who's from Lebanon, she always told me that relationship is the most important thing. And when I was a teenager, she was like, she forced me to write emails to people I was uh, going into the trainings and all that, sending vows and all. Like, she was really focusing on maintaining good relationships and network. So when I moved to Montreal, I had no network, and I went to so many events to meet people, and I was listening to big companies talking about sustainability, talking about recycling, buying local, and I was coming out of those events with a USB key made in China. I was like, that's
Hmm.
weird, how
Yeah.
a big company who has the money to have an impact is actually lecturing me on my sustainable actions, and they are giving me a product that is cheap, that is made out of plastic, that went all around the world to end up in my hand, and I'm going to throw it away.
So that inspired you to start Kotmo. Tell us for a minute just where
Exactly.
you're at right now. You're in your warehouse?
Yeah, I'm at the office. All my colleagues are listening to the
That's
podcast.
awesome. I love it. I love it. How do you define Kotmo to customers and to friends?
Well, Como is on a mission to change the promotional industry, to change an industry that no one cares about, because we don't really um, take the time to understand the promotional industry. When we explain to people what we do, people are like, oh, is that an industry? All those goodies that I have in my hand, there's actually an industry behind that. And so we're on a mission um, to make sure companies understand that everything that they buy with their brand on it has a message and is actually it's putting their brand into the hands of customers. So so what we work on and that we focus on is really making sure that the products that we create, that we deliver to our clients, have a positive impact, that are sustainable, and so this is how I explain what we do.
Yeah. How many employees do you have?
We're a team of 10 people.
Okay. Now, here's the question I have for you, and I love when you and I were talking about this in a pre-chat. Are you a distributor, a supplier, or an agency? You said to me this, and I love it. You said, I don't know who made this rule about who distributor versus supplier, but I don't want to choose. I want to be both.
Exactly. So when I started, I wanted to create products. So I have background in design. I did my studies in France in interior architecture and design. And so I wanted to create products that are meaningful. So we started to create products and selling them to businesses. And so people were like, well, distributors were like, well, can you send me your products? Like, why are you creating products and you're also selling to companies? And I'm like, well, my purpose in life is to change businesses because I believe that all the big changes that needs to happen in our world regarding environmental changes and social changes, I believe that companies have the power to do so, and so this is my focus to make sure that businesses change the way they practice, the way they buy, the way they source, and so we're in between. Like, we're a distributor, we're also a manufacturer. So, um, uh, and I remember having those conversations with distributors, and they were like, "Well, why don't you focus on selling to me? And I was like, yeah, but are you really leading a message to the end customer? Like, what are you telling them? Because you're just going to use my product in a big catalogs, and I want to make sure that you have the conversation with the business to change the way they source promotional products. If you don't have it, well, let me have this conversation.
So you are very selective about who you sell to, obviously. And what other channels? So you also sell to retail, like the retail shop Bref, am I pronouncing that right, in Montreal? So you sell retail, you're a manufacturer, and then you will sell to some distributors if it's the right audience for you. Is that right?
Well, this all changed actually when we launched our uh, locally made pen last October. So before that, we were only selling to businesses. Okay, some distributors were contacting us because they wanted to have some of our products, but it was not a lot of them. Last October, we launched the most sustainable pen in North America and the first pen made in Canada from recycled plastic, and that is recyclable. And with this, we have a product that has the power to really change an industry. And this product, we didn't want to keep it to ourselves. We were like, if we want to change the industry, we need to have all the distributors embark in this mission. And so we built this product so they could sell it to their customers.
Right.
So it's a whole new business model. And we're also now opening to retail so they can also sell to an end customer.
Right. I love this because we're stepping into the middle of your journey, right? It's like you're figuring things out. You discovered that after 3 years of research and development, if I have that right, you developed the first recycled pen made in Canada. So demand came from everywhere. And let's talk about that pen for just a minute as an example of what you're trying to do. How did you decide on materials and design? I'll get back to you as a business in a minute, but this pen, since we're on the topic, you went through multiple iterations of this, right?
Yeah. So the first reflection that we had was 5 years ago when we're like, oh, we need to design product with more sustainable and responsible materials. And we first embarked in the R&D with thinking that we would create a compostable material. That didn't happen. Like that was a whole other company. And the the chemical person we were working with was always asking us, what product do you want to do? Like, what product do you want to do with these materials? And we're like, oh, we don't know, we're designers, we're going to create anything, and he was like always focusing us back to a product. So we sat down and we're like, okay, what is the product that is the most sold in our industry? And we realized that pen, after all the clothes, is how do you say, sold
So, right, most
product.
popular item.
Yeah,
Right.
most popular item. And we're like, well, all the pen that we have are made out. The sustainable pen, the pen that are said that are sustainable but not really, are all made outside of Canada. And so we're like, we need something that is locally made. So this is how we started to work on a pen that was locally made. For the material, we had different approach. We had an approach on compostability, and then we had an approach on recyclable um, plastic. And we worked with um, environmental consultant, and they told us now the most sustainable option is a recycled plastic, because there are all this plastic that is recyclable that has no second life, and it's just a waste. So let's use this that we know how to recycle, because the compostability is like, it's not yet there. The industry is not yet there. So it was harder for us to market a product like this. But on the recycled part, the industry is more ready. The infrastructure is more ready. So that's why we chose to have actually it's plastic that is recyclable in Quebec, recycled from um, the garbage of people in Quebec. Like we have this green or blue garbage where we put all the plastic, and this plastic that you put there is actually recycled in in a factory, and then we buy it from there, and then we produce the pen.
And you manufacture everything in house for this pen.
So we have partners around
Okay.
Quebec, in the Quebec region,
Okay.
that manufacture the pen.
Okay. I love this though. Manufacturing is such a capital intensive investment. Like how many, so you got into this business and you thought, I just want to design cool things that protect the planet and and stop destroying the planet. And you were very passionate about it, but you also had this product design focus. What else do you manufacture at Kotmo, and how much of your product do you manufacture versus, I want to get one more question about the pen in a minute, but what else do you manufacture?
So we designed since the beginning of Kotmo. We designed about 100 products that are made in Quebec. So we have manufacturers all around the province. We buy some of our materials. For example, we buy felt, we buy cotton, we buy recyclable plastic, a polyester. We buy wood, and those materials are stuck in our different manufacturers with the collaborators that we work with, and they produce the products that we design.
I
So we
see.
have, it's about half and half now, because in distribution, like bottle of waters are really popular, but they're not made here. Um, so we have some products that we also distribute it. So it's might be half and half now.
Okay. So you launched the pen last October. How many units have you moved and sold since then?
We sold, let me give you the exact number
All
because
right,
I'm
give it to me.
really proud. We sold, and I have to have it right in with my English, uh, 185,000. Yeah.
Wow. Love it.
So
That is, yeah,
185,000.
I love it. You were featured on Dragon's Den, which for those of us in the US, Dragon's Den was the original Shark Tank.
Mhm.
It's and what was your when was that, and what did you pitch?
So that was in April, and we
Just
actually,
this year.
yeah, just this year, like maybe three. Actually, it was the 26th of April so that we
Wow.
were air on TV.
Okay.
So about 3 months ago, and we we presented Cosmo, but we also presented the pen, because it's a whole other business, that it's kind of a whole other business that we're
Right. Of
launching with
course.
this. It's new distribution channels. It's a new way of thinking, and so we wanted to feature this product, to have people to know about it, and also have an investment that will help us grow the business and go outside of Quebec, because we want to sell more to Canada and the US. And I also want to precise on something, is that, and I know your audience is also more maybe the Anglophone part of Canada and the US, but what we decided also with this pen, and we were talking about, we're a manufacturer and we are a distributor, but what we decide is that like 99% of my clients are in Quebec. So for the Quebec market, we're still in between, but for the rest of Canada and the US, we want to be a supplier. So we
Okay.
only want to sell this product to distributors, and we don't want to, like, it would be too hard for us to go knock off on every door
Yeah. To
or
scale that.
clients
Right.
in a new market.
Yes.
So we want to have
Yeah.
distributor, um, and we have now um, a distributor in BC, in Ontario, in Nova Scotia. So we want to go
It's
out
fantastic.
there and have distributor help us put this pen in the hands of businesses and people, so have better
It's
impact.
fantastic. So you go on in April. You launched the pin last fall. You get on Dragon's Den in April. You win some investment money into the product, and now you have decided. I love this distinction. You've decided you're going to sell into Quebec with your company, but then for the pin, you're obviously going to then sell to outside of Quebec to other Canadian companies and then into the U.S. What did you learn from your Dragon's Den experience? Like, obviously, that probably helped you decide where some of these lines were going to be drawn.
Hmm. Well, it was a lot of stress. Uh, it's always stressful to know that at the end you're going to be like you're going to go on TV and it was really interesting because we were talking about the promotional industry. It was really interesting to go there and talk about this industry because on the investor that are on the set. Actually, there was one of them, and she's the one who gave us the investment. She knew the industry. She buys a lot of promotional products, but it was really interesting to talk about this industry because we realized that people don't really know what there's a whole industry with a lot of money that pollutes the planet, that gives a lot of crappy stuff, and no one cares about.
Yeah. So you started the business in 2014. Do I have my year right? Is that right?
Yeah.
2014. You were designated a B Corp in 2016, 2 years after your founding.
Mm.
And you were also, this is an incredible honor, you were honored by B Corp on their, what was it, the Best for the World. They have this Best of the World for the World designation. And it is a quote from B Corp: community honorees have built caring for the community into their business model, like a business that donates all profits to rescue animal shelters or fair trade soap company that provides educational opportunities to all farmers, communities, and the supply chain. They're proving the business care for supporting your community. How do you at Kotmo, how did you end up on that list? How do you support your community?
Well, by having all the products that we design made locally, I think
Mm,
this
mm,
is the first focus I had with the company. And when we had our first certification, um, this is where I can make a easy and quick decision is to choose the businesses I want to work with and
yeah,
the manufacturers I want to work with. So that was always a decision that we took to um, make sure that we work with local businesses, to make sure that we have businesses that are from the social economy, that are nonprofit, that are woman owned. Um, they are unions, like all the social impact. Um,
yeah,
so this is the first step that we took in the company because this was the first thing that we could be um, different from our competitors,
yeah,
because today we talk a lot about like having locally made product, and I see big companies coming to us and say, oh well, we need to buy differently, like, but 9 years ago when I started and I was telling companies, well, like this is made in China. Do you really? Yeah, but the price, but it was a tough conversation.
yeah,
And there was not a lot of businesses that were ready to make a change.
right.
But 9 years now, after, um, they don't have the choice anymore. But we have 9 years experience
Yeah,
in producing locally. Working with manufacturers is actually it's a skill, like it's
yes,
it's complicated. It's you have to adjust the way you do business. You have to collaborate with them. You want to make sure you understand, like how products are made, the people behind them. It's not machines that do everything.
yeah. Celine, I know you're almost a decade into your business now, so you're not new by any means, but you do represent a new kind of entrepreneur where you come in with social impact on your mind. You want to impact the community. You want to protect the planet. You want to do things that are positive. It's such a refreshing message. And the fact that you are so conscientious about who you choose to work with in your supply chain, the fact that B-Corp recognizes this, the fact that you're very conscientious about the distributors that you work with, it's phenomenal. It's a great inspiration for all of us as we look to the future of the business. So congrats to you and your team and your business partner. I know you'll
Thanks.
have worked very, very hard. So tell us a little bit about Celine. You are an interior architect and a designer by training. This you sort of already talked about this, but this factors into your work. Like you're a designer by training, so you love doing product design, I would assume.
Yeah, exactly. So as you mentioned, I grew up in France. My mom was half Lebanese, half Canadian. My dad French. So I grew up in different cultures, and I was always interested in art. I used to go a lot to museums when I was young. Actually, Paris is a good place to live
Right.
when you
It's a
love
great place
art,
for that, right?
and always creative. Like when I was young, I was doing a lot of drawing. So when my parents had friends over, I would like set up all my drawings in the living room, and so they
Like
were
an
like
art
having
gallery.
a dream. Yeah, like an art gallery,
Yeah.
and I was
It's
making
awesome.
money like this to buy candies, and and I went into design because I love. Um, I'm fascinated by all the products that are around us that we
Hmm.
consume, and I believe that there's a lot of history that comes out of design and the products that we have and how we use it, and how we interact with them. And I think that more and more we didn't give the conscious for people like to know how products are made, really
Yeah.
understanding, like how it's made. And
Yeah.
this is what we love at Cotmo. And we used actually to do some videos of how our products were made to and give those videos to our clients so they understand why they're paying more.
Right. Right.
Um,
I meant to
so
ask this earlier. Do you plan on releasing more product to your other North American distributors other than Penn? I'm sure you do. Yes. Okay, great.
we always
That's
have
great.
ideas.
Yeah.
Now
Okay.
we need this pen to work to reinvest
Right.
the money and work on the next product.
Okay. I figured as much, but I thought I would ask. So tell me a little bit more about you. What brands or companies do you follow that inspire you?
um, well, I love, and this is maybe cliche from all the B Corps, but I love Patagonia. I read the book Let My People Go
Go
Surfing, and
surfing? Yeah.
that was really a revelation, to how you want to manage a business. So I'm more interested on practices, how the more than the brand, and the look of the brand is more like what practices that you bring um, into the business. I remember my first B Corp retreat. There was this company who made a conference, and they were saying that part of the profit that they had was actually going into a fund. And when employees needed a loan, a small loan to do a little project, they could borrow money from this loan, zero interest, and for a year, and they just give it back. Like this
Wow.
is practices that inspires
Yeah.
me.
What do you enjoy doing when you're not working?
I draw.
Draw. Okay. So you
Yeah,
still art is still a passion of yours.
yeah.
Um, Last question for you. What's the most inspiring or impactful book, movie, or podcast episode you've listened to lately? Any recommendations for us?
Well, actually, my colleague, we went to Vermont last week, and she made me listen to a podcast that was really inspiring by Simon Sinek.
Yes.
Let me get to the name of this podcast that I would recommend to. the audience was How to Change Your Future, one of the best speeches ever for millennials.
Hmm. Nice. Okay, great recommendation. We'll check it out. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Celine, I am so amazed by what you and your company have accomplished. I know it's been a decade. You've worked incredibly hard. You can tell. So thanks for joining us for the podcast today. My best to you and your business partner and the whole company.
Thank you so much, Barry.